This time on Beat Up Builds, we're working on the Supercharger. Welcome back, everybody. I've got a new shop here, so I've got a great place to work. I can do anything I want here. Awesome. I've also got a new welder, so I'm not using this piece of junk welder that doesn't work at all. So maybe the welds will improve a little bit. For anybody who hasn't been here before, I'm going to kind of just do a quick refresher so everybody can get up to speed. This is an M90 Supercharger off of a Ford Super Coupe. I got it for 50 bucks, and I decided I'm going to put it on my 22RE 4Runner. It's gutless, it's got no power, so I'm hoping this will give it a little more power, sound cool, and it was 50 bucks. So if I can do this whole project for pretty cheap, that's a win there. That's what we like doing on this channel. So far I have basically this is an upper intake manifold that adapts it to the Supercharger. I've cobbled it together out of pieces of metal. So we got that so far. I've got right here is a manifold that goes on the back here. The throttle body goes on here. It's got vacuum ports. It's got the mounts for the throttle. Pretty much, I think that's done. It's got the cold start injector mount. So we got all that stuff going on. And then where I left off was on this tensioner bracket that I was working on.
My tensioner here is started. I worked off a piece of angle iron that bolts the two bolts on the cylinder head. That helps locate it. I've got a Nissan Rogue tensioner. It's attached with basically a one bolt now. I need to make it completely surround the tensioner so it has a really nice base to rest on so it won't deflect. I'm also going to use this bracket to triangulate down to the bottom of the engine block somewhere to give some strength to the front of the Supercharger and give it a better mounting point.
Alright, I got it all welded up, I got it cleaned up. It's looking pretty halfway decent. I rounded the corners off, I lopped this off a little shorter. I think it came out pretty good so far. Let's take everything apart, bolt the Supercharger on, this on, everything else, and let's start making some support brackets. Alright, I've got the upper intake manifold on here. I want to put the Supercharger on so badly, but what needs to happen next is I need to put that tensioner bracket on here, and I need to triangulate it down to this air compressor bracket. And then after that, I can bolt the Supercharger on and attach that up to the snout of the Supercharger, making everything really strong. I changed my mind. I didn't go and build the bracket or any of that. I actually ran out and went and got the belt. So I think I have a good length belt on here. If I tension it, it's actually lined up pretty good, it looks like. So I think that's all going to be good, but the tensioner isn't tensioning enough. I've got it actually untensioned right now. I was measuring. But even fully tensioned, it's just like barely tensioned. So I need to change that. I wish I would have realized that sooner, but I need to change that. I think what I'm going to do, I was thinking about coming over more to tension it, but I think what I need to do is come up. I think that's going to be the best thing to do if I can, if there's enough room. And then I think that'll help it push tighter around this pulley as well. So let's try and do that. Let's start cutting. So moving this up 2 inches worked perfectly. Everything's working out great. We've got good tension on here. This is actually like pretty much all the way loose, and it's like tight. so like it's really at a good spot where it's at. Like you have to kind of shove the belt on, which is how it usually kind of is, you know. So we'll get good tension out of that. That should work. It's closer to the pulley, so we'll get a little more wrap around this pulley, which will help keep this from slipping. Might still slip though. I mean, it's only 6 rib and this was like 7, although I think the 7 or 8, I don't know. The GMs I think only had 6 rib though, so I was hoping this would be fine. So that's what we're gonna do there. I had to cut a little notch for the fins here, and the snout's kind of resting on this, which I think is good. And I'll tie into this bolt hole too, and then I need to make a support. But for right now, we're gonna take this back off. This plate's temporary, so what we're gonna do is make permanent angle iron pieces to fill in the back there. And then I may still put some kind of plate on the front here just to make sure it's strong. And we'll go from there. I'll pull it off. I know where everything needs to be now. It's just more or less filling in welding pieces and things like that. So let's get to welding. Down here, I've got a bracket on the AC compressor bracket that I cleaned up and is ready to weld to. I'm gonna run a piece of angle iron up to about here, and that's gonna triangulate everything. I'm gonna put a tab so it unbolts. I've got a rough cut out here. I'm gonna weld a nut on this side, and then a bolt will come through this side. That way it unbolts, and then this side will go down to the bracket. So I've got everything cut out. I'm just working on getting it in there now. That's my piece. It's gonna go. I'm gonna slide it down to this bracket here. Just hard one-handed, something like that. And I'm going to tack it down there, tack it up here, and then it'll be 3 bolts to take the mount out, and it'll just be this little tab back here. And I think that'll be out of the way, and it'll be awesome and support this really good. So let's get this tacked in. I've got the bracket tacked in. I've been sitting the supercharger up here, and I'm trying to get everything dialed. I had to cut bigger holes for the fins. They weren't big enough. The supercharger was sitting off the flange a little. So I'm trying to dial that in, and then I'm also trying to dial this in the best I can, the tensioner. That way it tracks as true as possible. So I'm trying to get that all dialed in. Then I'm going to throw the supercharger up on here and make a bracket that comes from off here and goes to there's like a big bolt hole right here. That way it helps support the snout a little bit more. Okay, I got a good bit done. I finish welded the bracket down here. I put a little black paint on it too, because I don't think I need to do anything else with that. Finish welded everything on this bracket, and I welded like a piece of, I have like 1/4 inch maybe flat stock that I welded on the front, just to make it that much stiffer, so it wouldn't twist. And then I went over here and I created a bracket that goes over here to a piece of tube with a nut welded onto it, which then goes to the supercharger here. And I think that's it. I think everything's supported really well. The only problem I have is I think the tensioner was deflecting so much before that I could get the belt on. I can't get my belt on anymore. I need actually one that's a little bit longer now. So I'm gonna figure that out, and then we're gonna go from there. I think all the support's done, so once the belt's on here, it's spinning. The upper intake I have is like, I think it's 90% done. I have like all the stuff welded on. There's a little bit of fiddly stuff like the vacuum lines and all that crap. And then I need to go from the throttle body to the airflow meter. And then I think we're supercharging, so we're really close. If I can get a belt tomorrow, we might be rocking and rolling tomorrow on this thing.
Went to AutoZone, I got a belt that will fit. It's a little big, it's almost touching. If this works out, I'm gonna get something a little shorter, but this is the best size they had available local to me.
I've got the upper intake on. I pretty much had that made already from the last episode. I just was routing the hoses and things like that, kind of boring stuff. This is a bypass valve, by the way, so this goes under the supercharger and then it reroutes back into the intake. So it's going to be set up so under vacuum the valve opens, and it won't be able to build boost pressure because it'll be like a leak. But it's back into the intake, so it's all metered and everything. Nothing changes. It just keeps it from building boost. So that's nice, because then at idle, like under vacuum, like low loads, there's no boost where you don't really need it. And then once you floor it and the vacuum drops, then the valve will close, boost will build, and it's party time. So that's what that little guy is. It's like off of a WRX or something like that. China version though. It's not actually off of a WRX. It's just intended for one. I think I have everything done. I ran vacuum lines. That's just hanging there for now, testing purposes. And I crafted this beautiful intake here. Added some exhaust tubing and a clamp. That's temporarily good. It's not hitting anything. I think we just need the battery, and then we can do our first start. All right, here's the big moment. I think we're ready to start up for the first time. I'm very excited. It's been a long time. I bought the supercharger in spring, and it's January 1st today, so it's been a long time, almost a year, doing all this. But yeah, we're getting it done. I'm really excited. I want to hear those supercharger noises. I want to see a little bit of boost on the gauge. Let's see what happens. Let's see if the belt flies off. I knew it. That was fun for a minute. Oh, it just like destroyed the belt. Oh, the pulley blew up. Wow, the pulley blew up. Come check this out. So, I thought the tensioner took a dump, but I think it's still kind of doing the same thing it's been doing. It might be a little bit more crooked. I don't know if it's made for this abuse, although I don't see why it would be any tighter than a normal serpentine belt. But I think it's all, you can kind of see it walking off of the tensioner, and I think that's walking it off of this. And then on the bottom, it's staying in on the bottom. So it's walking off of this, but I think it's the tensioner that's causing this, I think. But I'm not sure. I guess we'll have to figure it out. I'm debating whether I just cut these off and try and give it a quick rev and just see if it builds any boost or anything. It was cool that it ran, so that's a start. But we need to build some boost. I guess let me try cutting these off. If I can cut this off successfully where there's nothing flapping around, maybe I'll try again. All right, there's only like 2 ribs left. I'm gonna just try and start it and rev it. Hopefully I don't ruin anything when the belt comes apart. I just want to see if it builds any boost. That'd be cool. See something before I figure out this issue. It's cold in here today, guys. I have the heater on. It's a little noisy. So I took the tensioner out. I checked the supercharger pulley versus the crank pulley. They seem like they're in line or reasonably in line. I checked the I use the level app on my phone and check the degree that this pulley sits on. This is 3 degrees, the crank pulley is 3 degrees. So that's not really like a smoking gun. I'm really leaning towards the tensioner being the issue. So I'm gonna try and make a really like strong, beefy tensioner, simple, and see if that works. I took the pulley off of the Nissan Rogue tensioner. There's nothing wrong with the pulley. I think that tensioner is just a combination of it being a Chinese junky tensioner and just maybe me setting it up not great. So I got that. That's the most important part. This hole, it's hard to find something that fits good in there. I got a big bolt and I put some shim stock around it, and that's close. That might work. It's a little bit loose in the hole. It might not matter once it gets tightened up because it rests on this the center here, and I think that'll true it up. But I'm trying to get as close as possible. I just don't want to have the same issue again. So I think what I'm gonna maybe try and do, it wouldn't hurt to try anyway, is I have this locking shank lug nut that I don't have a lock for, and it's a shank lug nut. Not many wheels are shank style anyway, so I feel good sacrificing this. I think like this diameter of the shank is really close, and I think I can just drill the threads out. So what I think I want to try and do is try and grind this down. I think I'm gonna like thread a bolt in here and use the drill as like a lathe. Try and grind a little bit of that surface down so it fits in snug, and then I'm gonna take it, drill the center out. I'm gonna cut this down a bit, and hopefully have a nicer spacer to use. If not, I guess we'll do this, but let's try and make something a little bit better.
Back. I said a 1/2 inch, but what I was meaning was 7/16. So there's a little bit that's not threaded. It already fits in that. I just need to drill the threads out basically, and then this should fit in. We'll have a bolt to use, and then after that I need to make a big slot in some really thick metal and start building like a bracket.
Okay, I got my spacer worked out. I used the factory washer and just drilled the hole a little bigger. So that butts against the one end, and then the other end, it's hard to even see it there, the edge of my spacer butts against it. So not only is the sleeve of the spacer pretty tight in here, but then each end butts up against it to help center it. So I think that's basically the best we can do. So now I need to get this and mount it kind of like here. Probably won't need to be too big of a slot. It probably only needs to go like that much. And yeah, so I think I'm going to work on the face plate this will mount into, and then go from there, work on the supports. Okay, I cut a slot in here, nice as I can get it, drilling a hole and using a cutoff wheel. It's tight enough, it'll work fine. So I think what I'm going to do is, I think this corner right down here, I think I'm going to drill a hole and use that bolt hole and like space it out, and just use that one bolt just to help me like hold it in the space while I try and get it lined up for welding and all that good stuff. So I'm going to try and do that real quick and go from there.
Okay, I steered at it, tweaked it for half an hour until I was happy with it. I taxed some supports in. I'm hoping this will be strong enough to start it. I put another one here. I got 2 tacks and then the bolts there. I'm hoping that's enough that I can just start it and idle it. The belt's not really tight, so yeah, I'm hoping that's enough to start it and idle it and just see if the belt's going to track properly. If it comes right off, then obviously we have a problem. If we idle it for a while and it's fine, then I think we're fine. I think we can just finish welding and call it a day.
So I'm playing around now. For some reason the belt was like trying to go in, and then I tightened it a little more, and then it like popped off out. I don't know what the hell was going on. Okay, I'm experimenting with this ribbed tensioner. I think I might have a greater chance of success. I don't know why it was being weird with the other one, but I'm hoping this ribbed one, it touches less of the belt, so I think it influences the belt less. I'm hoping it'll work better. It seemed like the belt worked fine with no tensioner, so let's see what happens.
The belt tensioner has worked out fantastic. I haven't had a single issue with it. I was able to band-aid the tune a little bit so I could drive the truck to work. I can't get into boost or anything like that, but I was able to get back and forth to work all week. Didn't have a single issue with the belt.
Alright, this is awesome. The belt's staying on. That had me worried for a while there. I was concerned we were going to have to take everything off and kind of start over, and that would have sucked. I didn't want to do that. So I'm glad we got the belt staying on. I'm glad it at least runs now, and at a boost it runs okay-ish. So big issue is the supercharger leaks really bad. I'm filling it up like every other day to keep it full. So the seal needs replaced and it needs tuned. I have a few things I'm gonna do to get it tuned. I'm gonna do it kind of old school and cheap, and then down the road I'm gonna do something else. Maybe a mega squirt, maybe I see there's Speeduino, but I haven't seen too many people doing that. I actually did a mega squirt plug and play for one of these 22Rs a long time ago. I assembled the whole thing myself. So that would be cool to do. I kind of want it to be like a plug and play. I don't want to have to run a whole bunch of wires and everything. I don't mind adding a couple things here and there, but I don't really want to have to like totally reinvent the wheel. That way I could plug the old ECU back in and like run it NA and have it work, you know, if necessary. So that's the plan. Stay tuned for the next one. We're going to fix the leak, we're going to tune it, and we're going to let it rip. We're going to see what it can do. Maybe it'll do a burnout, maybe it'll go fast. Probably not. It's heavy and it's only a little 4-cylinder. But hey, if it got out of its own way, sounded cool, did a burnout, that'd be a big win.